Peter Jackson, Academy Award-winning director for the Lord of the Rings trilogy, acclaimed for his work on movies such as King Kong and District 9, and now Dig Dialogue guest. We recently sat down with him to talk about his upcoming movie, The Lovely Bones, and asked him the top questions submitted and voted on by the Dig community. This is Dig Dialogue with Peter Jackson.
Hi, and thanks for joining us for our 13th Dig Dialogue. I'm film critic James Rocky, and I'm honored to introduce our guest today, Academy Award-winning director Peter Jackson. Mr. Jackson, very much a pleasure.
Thank you.
Dig Dialogue is an interview series where the 40 million Dig users ask questions and vote on the ones they'd most like to hear you answer.
Right.
Over the past few days, the Dig community has asked thousands of questions, and we're going to focus on the best ones right now, which users have voted on as what they'd most like to hear you talk about.
Sure.
But first, before we tackle the questions from the Dig community, we wanted to talk a little bit about The Lovely Bones, and the Dig users' questions encompass your whole career, but looking at this film, it's got a lot of the humor and the horror of Dead Alive. It's got the tension and the tenderness of Heavenly Creatures. It's got the bigness and the boldness of Lord of the Rings. Is it fair to say this is the movie your whole career has been building up to?
Well, I probably wouldn't quite use that example. It sounds a little bit of an exaggeration to me, because I mean, one is I hope my career is not over, so I hope I'm building up to other things. But also, you know, the thing that I guess the thing I fear the most as a filmmaker is repetition, and so it's, you know, The Lovely Bones to me represented it represented an opportunity to tackle something that was very different to anything I've done before. And I think when people see it, you'll realize that it doesn't really remind you of any other movie that you've seen. It's pretty different.
And now on to the questions from the Dig users. The number one question from Tadave with 420 digs. How do you feel about movie piracy?
Well, it's a very good question. I mean, movie piracy to me has, you know, it's a very dangerous situation, because it's literally, it could lead to the death of films. I mean, it is that serious, because you have to realize that the movie industry, the entertainment industry, and we all love films, and I'm sure the Dig users love films too. We all share this passion to go to the movies. They have to make sense financially, and you have a studio or a company that you know makes the film. It costs a certain amount of money, and they are only going to continue to make those movies if they can earn their money back. And piracy literally threatens the ability of those studios to earn their money back. And you know, if we get to a point where the studio makes a movie and the pirates take most of the money instead of it going back to the studio, then there's only going to be one result, and that result is there will be no more films made, because it won't make sense anymore financially. And so the pirates will have essentially destroyed everything that we love, which is movies and filmed entertainment, and it'll be gone. So to me, it's, you know, it is a profoundly disturbing and very, very worrying crime, because apart from the criminal aspects of stealing money from other people, which I can understand that people think, well, you know, the studio's got lots of money, what damage does a little pirate guy do for $10? You know, it's actually the real problem is the fact that it's potentially threatening the entire industry, and there may be no more films made as a result.
The second question is from Daniel, RH9, with 364 digs. Now that it's been around 10 years since you actually shot footage for Lord of the Rings, is there anything you can see in retrospect that you would have changed?
Sure. I mean, I can't give you a specific example, but absolutely, you know, if I was making the Lord of the Rings today, I would do a lot of things differently. Because you just naturally, after 10 years, you get more experience. You know, the technology is improved. There's things that we couldn't do 10 years ago that we could do much easier now. But however, the other part of the answer is that I wouldn't want to change a thing, because any movie represents a snapshot in time. It's you're freezing a moment in time, which represents the experience of the filmmaker at that time. It represents popular culture at that time. It represents the level of technology at that time. And, you know, the Lord of the Rings movies that we made, they belong to, you know, to 2001, 2002, 2003. They belong to those years and collectively our experience. As it was at that time, and they would be different today. And you know, it's not about making them different. I mean, those movies exist, and they should stay exactly the way they are.
What was the biggest change in your filmmaking philosophy between the time of Lord of the Rings and The Lovely Bones?
Well, I mean, my philosophy hasn't really changed. I mean, technology has changed, and certainly, you know, the experience, and you learn things about filmmaking. But my philosophy is the one thing actually that doesn't change, really. I mean, you know, behind every film that I've ever made has been a desire to want to see that movie. I mean, it's the only reason I make films, is because I fall in love with the film when it's playing in my head as an imaginary movie, and I so badly want to see it that I want to get it out of my head and get it onto the screens, and then other people can share it and enjoy it. So that's, you know, that's been the case ever since I made Bad Taste, and even before Bad Taste. So you know, that never changes.
You produced District 9, a relatively low-budget science fiction adventure that saw massive critical and box office success. Did Neil Blomkamp's low-budget style have you reevaluating or thinking about how much it costs to make a great film or new techniques?
Yes, I would say that it did. I was enjoying working on a film because I produced it, so even though Neil was the director, I was still reasonably closely involved in it from a production point of view, and I enjoyed the challenge of making a film for a lot smaller budget than what we've had in the past. And you know, I'd be very happy to do it again. In fact, The Lovely Bones, to be quite honest, has got a relatively small budget compared to a lot of the other movies I've made, and that is okay because it leads to a different style of filmmaking. You have to be much more precise. You have to know exactly what you're doing before you do it. You can't waste money, and you know, that's an enjoyable way to make films, just as enjoyable as having unlimited resources. And so you know, Neil's making of that film reminded me a lot of the earlier films that I used to make, and I'd love to go back there again. I mean, I certainly, it made me start thinking about the idea of doing some low-budget films of my own to direct as well.
The next question is from Yupa Taurus with 243 digs, and the question is, can one simply walk into Mordor?
Well, I guess you probably can walk into Mordor, but whether you can walk out again is the question, isn't it? It's like it could be a one-way journey.
And at a certain point, you are adapting Tolkien's books. I mean, he had them walk in, right? So you kind of have to stay faithful to that. Yes, of course.
Absolutely, yeah.
The next one is from Mr. Saka, who is curious with 210 digs, who wonders, is there a dream film project that you haven't gotten a chance to make yet, and what is it?
Well, I'm going to be very cheeky with this answer, because yes, there are dream film projects, and I'm not going to tell you what they are, because if I tell you, somebody else might make them.
Right.
You see, I'm in a weird situation, because I do have some ideas for a couple of movies which I think would be very cool, but if I breathe a word of them to anybody, somebody else will grab the idea and go do it. So I have to be very security conscious.
And this is another hypothetical future question where it may be a one-syllable answer from Beast with 181 digs.
Yeah.
Is the Halo movie going to be made?
Well, I can only give you a roundabout answer. I would suspect it will probably be made at some stage, but I don't think that we'll be involved in it. I mean, the Halo film rights belong to Microsoft. They licensed them to some movie studios, to 20th Century Fox and Universal, for a brief period of time when Neil Blomkamp and I were going to be doing it. But I think since then, the rights have expired and Microsoft have got them back again, and I don't think that Neil's interested in doing it, and I would only be interested in doing it if Neil was involved, and so I don't think really it's going to involve us, but it wouldn't surprise me if at some point Microsoft do manage to get the film made, and good luck to them. It'll be an excellent film.
When you started making films, did you ever think, you know, at some point I'll be involved in a discussion between a multinational film corporation and the largest software company in the world?
No, not in the slightest, no. I mean, it is, you know, when I started making films, I was just hoping to get the film finished. You know, I was making my first movie, I was shooting in the weekends, and it took me 4 years of filming on Sundays to get the film shot. Just, you know, a few minutes a day, 2 or 3 minutes a month. And the question for me was just, am I ever going to get this film finished? And I didn't think beyond that at all. There was a very limited horizon.
From Patrick Loggins with 149 digs, what does a years-long project like Lord of the Rings do to someone's mental health and family life?
Well, we try to balance family life. You know, we try to involve our kids as much as possible. When we travel, they come with us. When we're away on location, they come with us. They meet the actors. You know, we hang out with the actors and our kids, and we try to involve as much of our family in the filmmaking as we can. So, which is good, because the obviously actors that come out to be part of the films, they bring their families as well. So you really try to incorporate everybody's family and make it as much of a communal experience as you can. But really, you know, to me, you know, spending a year or 2 years, or in Lord of the Rings it was 7 years, it's what I love doing. I mean, I'm the luckiest guy in the world, because I had a hobby which was making movies. I dreamt about making films, and I'm able to, you know, my hobby has become my full-time profession, and not many people get to do that, and I'm, you know, profoundly grateful for having that opportunity.
Well, the users of Dig are profoundly grateful to you for answering their questions. We've been talking with Peter Jackson, the director of The Lovely Bones, which opens December 25th in limited release and in January nationwide. Mr. Jackson, thank you very kindly for your time. You can find all of the Dig dialogues at dig.com/dialogues. We'll talk to you soon.